which is kind of funny. We're on Broadband. We don't know what we're doing on Zoom.
Yeah, I know. There's an irony there, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'm gonna wait one more minute.
Hey, everybody.
Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
Okay, it is 7:01. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining on this stormy Thursday evening. We are going to do something new for a change, which is have a public comment at the beginning of our meeting. I see we have 2 or 3 attendees
Oh, good.
this meeting, and do Don or Stan want to say anything, share anything with the committee? I guess you could raise, I'm not sure if you can raise your hand, but you can, I guess, just ask a question directly. I'm not sure if I'm speaking to a void, but
And that may be Stan Silly as a resident on Stan Silly Road in Lincolnville. Just that I'm taking a stab at.
okay, it's a nice name too. But all right, well, oh, here we go. We've got something from Stan Silly. Oh, he's just saying yes, haha. Okay, well, with that, let's move on. I just want to say if any attendees have questions, just feel free to ask them during the meeting, and we'll get to them somehow. Okay, so let's look at the minutes that Mike had passed around. Did everyone get a chance to see them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, motion to
Second.
pass the minute.
Second
Okay,
motion.
motion and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, let's see. Gina, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Mike, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jordan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Becky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jonathan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, David Perkins, how do you vote? You're currently muted.
Is that something you can control, Josh?
No,
Can
I'm
you-
not running the meeting.
see.
David Kinney is. But I don't know where, I don't think he's currently at the computer. David Perkins has the ability to unmute himself. He should. All right, well, I vote yes, it passes.
Great.
Let's just
Okay.
let David as abstain, I guess, or no response, I'm not sure.
Okay.
He could raise his hand.
He could raise his hand, yeah. Smoke signal. Okay. Well, let's see. Moving on, we're going to move on to discussion about the preliminary report to the Board of Selectmen. Did everyone get David Perkins's draft that he sent half an hour ago?
Yes.
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 I did not. No.
Okay,
I didn't. Fill me in.
He just sent it. I think it's great. I think it with just a few minor changes, I think it really lays out what we've been up to. I should first start by saying I brought this up to the Board of Selectmen on Monday, asking when they wanted to get a report from us, and they would like one before our next meeting in 2 weeks. So I think none of us should feel bad for not getting more done, considering, you know, we started our meetings kind of late, and of course the pandemic. But already I think we've gotten a fair amount done, considering.
Yeah, I thought so.
Well, I also just wanted to be being transparent. Probably next week I'll be starting up a Facebook group trying to start, I don't know if you like grassroots effort or just to really start grouping people together in Lincolnville and informing them on what's going on. Just because I know it's, the municipal route for me, I find to be really interesting. And the more I talk to people, and the more I read about it, it's just as more compelling. So I know I'm going to be pursuing this even outside of, whatever happens with this committee. But yeah, so I mean, I'm sure there will be more to come. I couldn't imagine with all that we've heard from Islesboro that this would just be something that would go away. So sorry, that's just.
Okay.
What do you mean would go away? What would go away?
Well, like, it's not like, I mean, it's not, I don't know how this path is going to follow or what's going to happen with this exploratory committee, but I know that personally, like, I was really felt strongly about the situation before we started all this, but after hearing Islesboro's story, it just, it makes me feel so much differently about the situation, especially because what we just went through with the pandemic is just a small window into it. And we're fighting such a strong battle with LCI right now just to get them to bring us up to the basic level.
Yeah.
Why should we have to do that every 3 years? We're going to have to go back to them and beg, can we have more service? Can we have this? And Islesboro has the 1 gig connection, and they already said the upgraded. So for me, and I respect everybody's opinions, but just as somebody who's lived in Lincolnville for a while, grew up here after moving from New York, and all my family lives here, and just so I have like the background taste in my mouth from the show, and I don't see any negatives to a town our size with the usage of internet really exploring what's going on, because otherwise we will only be at the mercy of companies like LCI, and I'm not painting them in a bad picture. I just mean for-profit companies. Lincolnville's terrain is never going to change geographically, hopefully, because I love it here. But that will always provide a unique challenge for for-profit companies. So I hope that this committee goes further and that the selectmen see something promising and we can bring it to the town. But I know personally, I'm going to work on the side to really try and get people informed, and like I said, something going so that it isn't just trying to push like this behemoth of a rock uphill, because I really feel like if it's not presented in the right way, that we could lose an opportunity. Because like I said, I just don't see any negative to it at all. And I want service just as fast as anyone else, because I've been 6 years without it. And just to give you a personal anecdotal story, just even in the last 3 weeks since we've been on the committee and heard from Islesboro, called up LCI, talked to all my neighbors on the road. Guess what? I'm off 52, a quarter of a mile from the center. We have 4 houses on the road. We have aerial poles. All of us want fiber optic. I called them, told them this. 2 days later, they said the engineers looked at it. We'll let you know when we're going to expand service. So, I'd rather have some kind of vote and control and ownership. And I felt excited and emboldened after listening to Islesboro. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be. It just was like a fairy tale type story. And I read all the con articles that were sent, Mike. I appreciate that. But they were all 3 to 5 years old and all referencing weird situations. And even in the first paragraph of the Hill article, it said, municipals, like a city utility, which is public gas. And like when I lived in Brooklyn, it was like that. They said, oh, well, instead of us running it, we subcontracted out, which is exactly what we would be looking to do. So even in the con articles, I found affirmation in that route. And again, Josh, I mean, you have fiber optic, and your candid reaction to when they told you what they paid and what service they got was the right one, which is like, wow, oh my God, like, why would you not choose to have that? And from the beginning, from the bottom level, not starting at 25 megs, you know what I mean? And then every 2 years being, please, can you upgrade us? Because the technology, as you know, and I'll be quiet after this, but technology moves in an exponential rate, just like, how many, the chip production, how it doubles and doubles and doubles and doubles. Technology is not something that works slowly. So we're going to need to have access to way more than we have right now. And that's only going to increase over time. So I'll shut up now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure if you were wondering, but I personally don't see any issue with you, working on this side. We all should advocate for what we believe in, and that's what's great about our democracy, I guess. Hi, David. We're just talking about the update that you wrote. Are there any thoughts? Additions? Yeah, Mike.
I've got two. First, for David. David, I didn't get a copy of the update draft. Could you send one to me? I don't know if you have my email address.
Yeah, what is your address?
It's DM, as in David Michael, DMRAY at GWI.net.
Yeah, I sent that.
Yeah, thank you. And Jordan, I wanted to ask you a question. Would you, excuse me, would you feel comfortable filling us in whenever we meet on what feedback you're getting from your Facebook?
Oh yeah, and I didn't want to make that seem like it was adversarial. I just wanted to say it because it's, I feel like if you are advocating for something, that you shouldn't have a duality to it. You know what I mean? That I'm being consistent, and because it's not something that's backhanded. I just really want to start. It takes time to gather people, as we see about surveys, and it seems to be there's already a lot of ways to tap into some people and at least get the word going, because I think that a lot of people would get excited, or at least they could watch the meeting, because listening to them talk just made me, and my wife too, she was watching and she's not into this kind of stuff normally at all, and she was like, wow, this is incredible.
That's great.
No, that's good. More power to you. I'm glad you're doing this. Great.
Me too.
By the way, I just want to say Stan Silly wrote a comment saying we were told the exact same thing on Stan Silly Road. We have 6 willing to pay, and we were told sorry.
So, what's so interesting? I had Ed Hurlbert at our house last week hauling our boat, and we were having a conversation about internet. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe somebody else knows where he lives. He lives on a private road, and I think he is one of 2 houses. He has fiber optic.
Huh.
He was totally shocked, which doesn't really make sense when I'm listening to you guys and reading about Stan Silly. And
There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, they don't feel they need to share with us, and they just do what's in their best interest, which
Their own rule book.
Well, and it's besides that. That's why I had so many problems with the qualitative evidence, or not evidence, but the numbers that they gave us were so muddled, and it makes it really hard to think about anything when you're presented with numbers that just don't make sense. And I'm no mathematical genius, but like I said, when you add up these numbers and they say 80% is this, and then the number, the 400 that they say that choose not to have fiber optic where it's available, that number to me is totally unbelievable at this point. Because when and here's, one of 3 people on a Zoom meeting in Lincolnville, and immediately says, it's my experience. Everybody I hear from, that's their experience. And when you have, again, everyone on my road, and we already have polls, what more? And we saw their presentation on the visual. It said, if you have a road that's this long, that has poles, that has, I said, and just to let you know, I'm the vice chair of the broadband committee, and we're talking about this right now. So maybe think about your response. And they didn't, so it just.
I just want to quickly give you guys an update. I forgot to open with this. David Kinney wrote to me a few days ago saying that the consultant that was recommended by Islesboro is Brian Lippold of Casco Bay Advisors.
What's the name again? Brian what?
Lippold, Lippold. Let's see, he was the town of Islesboro's project manager seems very knowledgeable, and he would be happy to meet us for an initial meeting for free. So,
Excuse me, Josh.
yeah.
Wasn't Brian Lipholt the same person that Alan Hinsey said worked with LCI on some of their projects?
I'm not
just
sure.
going
I
by
mean,
memory
that
on
wouldn't
that.
surprise me that it's.
I think so, yeah. And he recommended that we talk with
Oh, great.
Lippold
Everyone,
as well,
oh,
because he's got an independent firm, right?
yeah. Casco
So,
Bay
yeah,
Advisories. Yeah.
That's great
Okay.
news, Josh. I think everything we're talking about is exciting, but it would really be helpful to have somebody who does this day by day and can really kind of help us understand the practicality and the complexities. And I think that resource would be awesome over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that David Kinney mentioned, Charter / Time Warner / Spectrum, same company. They got back to him, and they wanted a list of road names for the estimated 338 homes that are not served. And I said, we don't have that. Could you ask Alan Hinsey if we could get that specific list of those 338 or the roads that those 338 homes are on? And so he's working on that. But regardless of that, of course, the survey, that'll answer all these questions definitively for us, and we don't have to rely on LCI to supply that information. Let's get back to David's draft update to the Board of Selectmen. Are there any other thoughts on it?
Could I just say, I just threw down ideas just to kind of get us something to work off of. So,
Personally, I think it's in really good shape.
and I'm also not sure of, I couldn't read my notes on the Islesboro cost. I know they said it was $3,800 per household, but I wasn't quite sure what the cost was to the town. So if anybody has good numbers for that part should be corrected.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. What figure you weren't looking for the per mil rate for property owners? Did I hear that wrong?
They gave two numbers. They said the cost per household was
$30 a month, and then the mill rate was
$360 a year. But then he also threw out a number what it costs the town and the town budget. I think it was something like $150,000, but he talked about insurance and
Well, he said, I believe the maintenance rate was $1.40 per $1,000 value of the property. So $100,000 house would pay $140 a year, and then going up by that formula. So those were the maintenance costs. I don't know if you wanted to include that or not, but
okay. I'll be happy to go back to Islesboro if nobody has really good numbers, because we should have good numbers when we give that to the select.
Yeah.
So don't trust my numbers.
Okay, we'll double check them. I will say that I think just one idea near the end, you mentioned at this point, our committee supports pursuing a grant with the Island Institute that will be used for consulting services to assist our committee as we review the feasibility of each option. I think that's great. And then taking a survey of town residents to assist residents' views on, and then I thought we should, in addition to, you wrote LCI and any issues with its services and costs, a broadband system owned by Lincolnville and incurring the bond and operating costs. And then I thought something along the lines is that their current internet service provider and their feelings on it, just, not assuming people have LCI. And on that vein, I thought, Mike, the surveys from the cities of Farmington Hills, and Solon were really great. They were short and to the point, and really gathered, I think, the information we needed without any additional fluff.
I liked the Farmington one.
Yeah, I liked it the most.
Getting back to the Islesboro conversation we had, the point that they made that I liked was everyone started with 1 GB and we're on an even playing surface, and it made it easier to do repairs. That was one point that really stuck out for me.
Mm-hmm. It just makes everything so simple.
Exactly. And cost effective.
Mhm.
We got to get Paige too.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, any other thoughts on this draft?
Thought it
No,
looked
it's
good.
great.
I'll make
I
that
just-
change.
I just had a question. Are we going to just submit a written report, or I mean, since you're on the committee anyway, you can give them a summary of what's going on anyway.
Yeah, I'll ask to have it on the agenda, so it's a formal agenda item, and I'll just give a quick presentation on what we've been working on. But obviously this sort of speaks for itself.
If we have a set of survey, like the Farmington survey format, we might want to attach that too, so they can see that.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Okay, great. Well, if there's nothing else on that agenda item,
Yeah, I've got something, Josh.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could ask David to send around, I guess, attendee invitations or whatever you call them to the select board meeting when you give your presentation. Just, I mean, we can't be there in person and give you moral support, which is what you do at select board meetings because it always looks good, right?
Yeah.
But at least we can kind of attend,
Yeah.
and so they know that we care. I don't know if that would be helpful or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's certainly helpful.
So I guess David would have to invite us, right? Yeah.
No, there's always a public link. So,
Okay.
but I'll be sure either he or I send that link, and so you would show up as attendees.
Okay.
But anyone can join these meetings as a attendee as long as they have that link.
Yeah, I mean, I always do. I always look at your meetings by the YouTube live thing, just because it's easier for me. I don't have to worry about making noise or pressing the wrong button or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know when the meeting is?
Yeah, our next select board meeting is the 20s. Oh, let's see, the 22nd. Monday the 22nd. Yeah.
What time is that, Josh?
6 p.m.
Thanks.
And basically, my ask of the board is obviously we need more time. And looking at the
Hey, Josh, I got a question.
Mhm.
I got a question for you as a selectman. So if the Island Institute had $15,000 available in grants, and they said if you come up with some money yourself, it makes you more likely to get the grant. If we could raise $2,000 or $3,000, could we ask the selectmen to give us the green light to go ahead? Because if we wait for the selectmen to come up with $2,000 or $3,000, that'll probably be a long time.
Yeah.
Can we ask for that, permission now? And then if we can raise the money, we could get that grant sooner.
If we could raise the money on our own, I don't see the harm in asking. I mean, that's
Why would they care if it doesn't cost them anything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but at the same time, we probably want to notify the select board that we're doing this.
Right. I think we need their permission.
Of course.
Yeah, well, because we are working under, as a town entity, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah, we certainly wouldn't sign a contract with anyone or apply to something without letting them know and asking if that's what they want.
No, I'm sorry. I was just talking about just raising the seed money. If we were to go out and each try to raise some, money and then put it together to come up with $3,000 to match, or so we could get to 15. I think we'd want to let the selectmen know ahead of time that we're doing that. We're raising money.
Right.
So because we're a town committee.
Before we start fundraising, certainly we should ask them first.
I know a couple wealthy people in town who don't
This is
have
good.
broadband.
This is good. Well, how about you be the point? How about just you do it? You be the point person there. You can make
I'll
all the
make
calls,
2 or 3
David.
calls, but
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I will bring that up. We are similar to Islesboro in some ways, in the sense that there are wealthy people here who, like everyone else, want broadband. So
Yeah. Summer people.
yeah,
Well, and we've got 3 times the base that they do too. So it's like whatever it costs them is going to be spread out so much more over our base of people. It's, yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
If they raised 100,000, we should be able to raise 2 or 3.
I would think so. Perhaps.
Well, it would be nice if we could, and I'm sure that if we were to get a consultant, they would include this in their package, their study, to estimate what the mill rate, what the expected mill rate would be. Oops, my computer's going to town. Can you still see me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. What the expected mill rate would be if we were to float a bond, go the municipal broadband Islesboro route. Theirs was 1.4, I think. Their mill rate, their increase for each resident saw 1.4
Yeah.
increase. I'm wondering if we could calculate what Lincolnville would say, just because that would be one of the first questions folks would ask.
Yep.
Mhm.
What's it going to do to my taxes?
Right.
Well, that's a simple math calculation, just like if you were trying to figure out a mortgage for a house, you
I
just
would
figure out
think
how many
so,
residents are tax base and you multiply it by a certain amount, and you can see, well, X amount, and we get, if you want to see how much it would take to get $4 million, I can guarantee you that spread apart, 1,600 households or whatever it is going to be a lot less money per household than it is going to be for 600, which is what it is on Islesboro. So, I mean, that Dave Kinney, he's a master of numbers. I'm sure he could multiply out to see what the mill rate would be for a $4 million bond. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we really have no idea what it would cost to.
No. And I'm sure that would take an extensive study by an engineering team, not just a consultant.
So the question that we need to ask the board is the request on how much more time our committee needs. Let me just read the charges that we have for our committee. So there's elect a chairman, vice chairman, secretary, submit minutes. Number 3, document in what areas of town are currently served by broadband infrastructure and where gaps in service exist. Number 4, seek confirmation that the board's goal of 100% access to broadband is also the goal of the community. Number 5, explore available options to provide broadband service to underserved or unserved areas. 6, identify any municipal procedures, policies, rules, or ordinances that have the effect of delaying or increasing the cost of broadband infrastructure development. 7, identify any actions the town might take to advance the provision of broadband service to unserved or underserved areas. 8, coordinate education and outreach. And 9, make a recommendation to the board as to what course of action the committee believes is in the best interest of the town as a whole. Now, we were given 6 months basically to do all these, and I think we've really have had more like 2 or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
If we do want to take advantage of those Connect Maine grants, and if they do pass next month, time is of the essence, I think, to have our ducks in a row. So I would think that 2 months would be enough to complete our work. What do you all think?
August?
I guess the question I'd have is, a lot of those questions are going to require some more detail in the survey, I think. Isn't that right?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because the charge, as I understand you're just rereading it, was really focused on underserved areas, right, or unserved areas. And I guess the information we've had so far in identifying where those are, it's all come from LTI, isn't that right?
Yeah, and that's a huge part of the survey, asking, what do you have? What's available? Yeah.
And if this, I'm just wondering the timing of getting the survey out and getting it returned, is 2 months enough time? Because I think once we get the survey back, we'll then have to essentially assemble the information and make recommendations. And I don't know if we can actually make the final recommendation until we've perhaps, maybe the final recommendation is that we engage a consultant to help us do the analysis. Because it does seem that the charge is essentially to give a recommendation about how to proceed as well. Is that right? Isn't that the last of the recommendations?
Make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen as to what course of action the committee believes is in the best interest of the town. Yeah, so we're charged with giving a recommendation on what to do.
I would avoid having a 2 or 3 month. I mean, we're moving fast. Let's stay committed. And let's
Okay.
just ask for time to get this done, because it's really hard to tell whether it's going to come together really quick or whether it's going to take 3 or 4 months, you know?
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I'm not, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm under the impression that if this, the bond issue passes in July, that doesn't put us under a hard deadline to receive money, does it?
There's
That is,
still
there'll
no
be-
deadline. Yeah, there's no
Right,
deadline.
there'll be money available in October, perhaps.
Yeah. Do
There'll-
you know
there'll
any
be money
government
available
program
after
where
that.
funds are immediately available upon its inception?
No, I mean, but my guess is. if
I'm
the bond passes-
agreeing with you. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I was gonna say, if the bond passes, there'll be money available next year. That, I'm guessing.
I would think
I
so.
mean, I don't think
yeah.
we have to shoot for making this all happen by October 1st or something, do we?
I don't know.
Also, if we do the LCI option, that could be done in a couple of months. If we do the municipal option, that's going to take longer because there's just a lot more information to gather and really nail things down.
All right. Well, so what should I ask for? Because they want a timeline.
I think 2 months is a good place to shoot for.
Okay. We can start there, and we can always ask for more time. It's not like
Yeah.
we're costing the town anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm wondering if we want to divide up and delegate a few tasks according to the charge, putting a couple people on identifying those areas that are not served, putting a couple people on researching the town ordinances and statutes to see if there's anything blocking any broadband expansion, and identifying the options, et cetera. Just like going through that list. And while we were trying to get all the survey done, and while the survey's out there, we could be doing all these little smaller nitpicky things, as it were.
Mhm.
I think
Good
that would
idea.
satisfy the board to say, well, at least they're working on the whole thing, rather than going towards just a specific part of it, namely the survey. Or
Although I think that's a great idea, but if we are saying we're going to do 2 months, I mean, I think we have to get the survey out there.
oh no, I
That's top
agree.
priority. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I agree. It's a top
definitely.
priority. Yeah, yeah.
Listen, I could certainly take a look at the statutory circumstance to see if there's an express prohibition on what we're trying to do, which I guess essentially would either be, negotiating with the cable company or having a bond issue for this particular, project. I'd be happy to
Yeah, I
do
would
that.
think it would be pretty easy to do just that.
That's why
yeah,
I volunteered to do it, actually. It sounds
Yeah.
pretty straightforward.
Okay, great.
Well, I'm glad you volunteered because I was going to volunteer, but I think you'd be better at it. And
Listen, I don't want to deprive you of the opportunity, but
You
I'm
guys could have a
happy to
good
do it.
no, I appreciate the deprivation. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I'd be happy to volunteer to put together the survey just from the information we have from these examples, from the notes that we compiled, and then share that at our next meeting, and we can finalize it then, if that sounds good.
It does.
Okay.
Okay,
How
great.
are we gonna put it out there?
Sorry, what's that, Gina?
How are we gonna put the survey out?
So SurveyMonkey, I mean, this looks, I've never used it, but this looks like a really great format. And we'll put it on the bulletin board. We'll put it on the town's website. Every Facebook group we can think of.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
think also posting a flyer of it in different places around town, and maybe have little slips that have a link so someone could tear it off and go home and
That's a great idea.
plug in that link.
Well, Josh,
Yeah.
when you're talking with the select board and you give your presentation on the 22nd, if you could suggest, if they can magically find, some money for postage or mailing, maybe that's available somehow. And that would be, I mean, as you, with Midco Solid Waste, mailed surveys regarding recycling 3, 4, 5 years ago. Maybe you could.
We didn't actually mail that. So the way we did that survey, it was, I don't believe we mailed it. That was all
Okay.
electronic. And then we had paper copies available at the gatehouse. That's how I
Okay.
think it was rolled out.
Okay.
Do we have a notion of what percentage of the population we would think to be an adequate sampling for the survey?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, surveys are, it's interesting, is it everyone in town, or do we have the capability of doing that? Then it'd only be a certain percentage for reply. I think surveys can be manipulated pretty easily.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, the people who are really unhappy will reply on the survey, and a lot of people will sit on it. And maybe we just disclose that when we give the information to the selectmen.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not a statistician, so I don't know what's statistically significant. Honestly, I would imagine that people are very motivated to share their thoughts on this, and I think that we'll get a really good sampling of the population. I would think at least, I mean, for me, I would want to see at least 10-20% of the population. We could potentially get more than that, but that would certainly be a good sampling.
Yeah, that'd be healthy.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
Well, or does anybody know how many households there are in town? Are we looking at close to 800 according to the LCI numbers?
Way more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, according to just their numbers, it's around 15 or 1600. So, or 1200 or 1300. So, yeah, I'm sure there's more than that. I can't remember how many. Is there 2,500 people in Lincolnville?
It was like
Yeah.
2,100 people.
1,000.
20.
So if there's 1,000 homes, we're looking at 10-20%. We're 200.
That's really not that many people,
Okay.
Well, look at how many people vote at the annual town meeting. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes two.
That's the other thing we should do at town meeting, at the voting, have some type of information, try to capture people then.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm gonna make a note of that.
I want to echo what Mike said. The more we can organize ourselves to work either by ourselves or as kind of subcommittees in between meetings and then be productive when we get back together. I think that, that's really important. And I hope we stay focused on trying to get ourselves organized that way.
Certainly. Okay, well, speaking to that, I'm looking at the charge and thinking if there's anything else we can be working on in tandem. See confirmation of the.
Can you
Yeah,
repeat could you kind of repeat what the big points of the charge were?
Sure. Let's see. Number 3, document in what areas the town are currently served by broadband infrastructure and where gaps exist. 4, see confirmation that the board's goal of 100% access to broadband is also the goal of the community. 5, explore available options to broadband service to underserved or unserved areas. 6, identify municipal procedures, policies, or ordinances that have the effect of delaying or increasing the cost of broadband. 7, identify actions the town might take to advance the provision of broadband service to unserved or underserved areas. 8, coordinate education and outreach. And 9, make a recommendation to the board.
I mean, how much can we rely on the LTI information in terms of who's getting served and who isn't?
Right. How would you find out that information?
Well, you can't because, like I said, I know for a fact that they count my household as having access because I'm on the beginning of 52, which if you look at their map, all of 52 has fiber optic. So, and Stan Silly also, but I mean, for us, like when you directly ask, and this isn't the first time, I just know you can't count on them at all. So I mean, like Josh said, I think the only way they can find out is the survey, you know, and maybe maybe a survey can get us to find out approximately how many people have it and want something else. But again, I have a hard time believing that there's 400 and something households that refuse to get fiber optic on top of what they say the 340 that can't get it. I mean, that number alone is more than Islesboro has by 100.
Yeah, I guess the problem I'm seeing is that if we're using a survey and we're thinking of getting a 10 or 15% return, that's not going to give us the information in terms of who's being served.
It is not.
Is there another way to get that? I mean, that's one of our major charges, is really to know who's there and who isn't.
Well, I mean, I think a combination of the survey and knocking on doors is the most surefire way, but you know, we're technically still in a pandemic, I guess.
Well, that's why I'm trying to do it. You know, I haven't had extra time, but next week I've been working towards this virtually knocking on doors, because I've seen it brought up in some Lincolnville things and other places lately about the internet. And there was also just a editorial from a high school student who lives in Hope in Village Soup talking about how during the pandemic it has just been abhorrent trying to study without having broadband. And that, you know, Hope isn't Lincolnville, but Hope, Appleton, and Lincolnville all share a certain type of plight when it comes to these issues. So it's definitely on people's tongues.
Well,
I'm sorry, Josh, I was going to say, why can't we simply ask or say to LCI, who I presume has that information, those addresses that are uncharted? Am I wrong in assuming that they've got that information?
Well, I think Jordan's saying they're not going to tell us if they have it.
It's not
Well,
really.
We've
I'm
asked.
thinking, see, it seems to me, if we were to, it wouldn't hurt to contact them, say, look, we're looking at working with you guys as one option. We're looking at a few other options as well, but one of them is working with you guys. And, but in order to do that, we need to know those addresses, because we can't go forward as a committee without it.
That's a
And
good
we need to work
suggestion,
together as a
yeah.
committee, et cetera, et cetera.
so
Okay,
David Kinney is already working on asking them about the 338 unserved homes, and I'll ask him to also ask about the homes that they say have refused fiber optic, but have it available.
Okay, I'm sorry, Josh, I forgot that you'd said that earlier, yeah.
That's okay. But I think we should still take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And I think we should push out the survey in as many ways as possible, see what the return is from that. And if we're not happy with that, then, you know, perhaps strongly consider knocking on doors, wearing masks, knocking on doors, and making contact.
Posters saying who we are.
Right.
Well, what about, you know, I think appearing at the farmers markets, right? I mean, which are now coming back to life happily.
Yeah.
And you can probably, you know, reach a lot of people just by having someone there at a desk with a survey.
Yeah. Certainly, that's a great idea, and we should do that in addition to, I mean, maybe just spending a few days at Drake's, spending a few days at the general store.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Or
know,
town office even.
Or the
town office.
library.
Yeah.
We could probably, you know, hit the basic grocery stores, you know, French and Braun, Maguntacook Market, the general store. And
But yeah, but
Get
we
mo-
wouldn't be necessarily getting Lincolnville residents if we were.
yeah, that's true.
mhm.
And they probably wouldn't let us hang out anyway, since they're 5 customers at a
And we'd
time.
be non-paying.
Yeah. Although I guess that's changing, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, very rapidly. Okay, great. Let's see. So we're talking about action items. From the list of charges, I can't think of any other action items to assign. For our next meeting, what do we want to be doing at the next meeting besides finalizing the survey? Do we want to meet with that consultant? Do we want to hear from Spectrum, who may have someone available for us?
Yes,
If we could, that'd be great.
yeah.
Okay.
Josh, I had a question about Spectrum. They said they were looking for a piece of information or a number. What was the information they were looking for?
They're looking for the streets that the 338 unserved homes are on.
Okay.
And so we're asking for that, and as soon as we get that, we'll
We can't give them all the streets that we have here in Lincolnville that they're not already on?
we don't know it.
It
We
seemed like an
spent
interesting
a-
question to me when they're not here at all, but they wanted a list of streets that were underserved.
Well, they're going to
When
do an
they-
overbuild. They're only-
Profit analysis, yeah.
The incentive for them to come in is to have unserved homes. So, so they really
But
want
for
to
them, they're
know,
all unserved.
excuse me?
To Spectrum, they're all unserved.
Well, they're looking for what's the possible, who can they sell to? And
Yeah.
if they
They
already- if
mean
they-
unserved in general with the service because they want to know, again, how, like George is saying, they want to know what their profit base is and what they're going to have to put in. So if there's, 500 homes that aren't getting service at all, they see that, oh, well, that's future
pretty
income
much
that's
guaranteed.
possible.
Right?
So-
They wouldn't want to bother
yeah,
anything
exactly.
with LCI. I would assume.
Yeah, there's a number they need to be able to
Yeah.
go ahead and overbuild.
Yeah.
Which is going to be the number that we're going to present in terms of whether we build the system ourselves.
Yeah. And
So
it will
that's
be a
like-
less speed.
Really
no
critical
matter what.
information.
Could we clarify whether we want to spend time with Spectrum? I don't see that as particularly useful. Does anybody else?
I
Well,
would, I would second the notion
sorry.
that we want to have as direct a line as we can to getting us answers to a bunch of things. And I would agree that I'm not sure what Spectrum will do at this point, because I'm not sure we're in a position to even decide we want to speak to them.
Well, can I also just say, I think that it's also illuminating for people who can't see these meetings during the time to be able to look back and see what these companies' demeanor and attitude is. And
Okay.
because if they see that these providers are really unwilling to do anything, I think that people's, that their opinions may change in one way or another when they really see that none of these providers have any appetite of actually serving us, which I'm not saying is the case, but I don't know if that makes sense or not. I just think it's really important for people to see the whole process and not just, think that it's arbitrary.
Well, does that mean you think that we should have them come in, Jordan?
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial to have them in and ask them questions because, one, we don't know what they're going to say. I don't assume that they're going to offer anything. But I feel like it's important for the town to be rejected if they're going to be rejected so that they can see what pathways are open and what's not. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else but me, but I would want to see that.
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
have a-
I
I don't
agree. The
have a
more
problem with
competition we
talk-
can invite to the table, I think the better it's going to be, rather than just say that we spoke with LCI the entire time and that was it. If we can say, listen, we spoke to these 5 providers and here's the information we got from all 5 of them, I think that positions us a lot better.
I agree.
I'm fine with that, but the people that I really want to hear from is GWI and this Brian Lippold. Like our next meeting, I'd love to try to get both of them, Spectrum, get them in whenever you like.
Okay. Well, I will let David know to invite Brian and I'm not sure where we left it with GWI. We've reached out. I'll check on that though. Ask David to invite Brian. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so we'll work on we'll finalize the survey. Hopefully we'll have someone to come talk to. What were you about to say, David?
No, the group's point on Spectrum is a good one. More voices, the better. I don't think we're going to learn much from them, but it's useful. So I think you guys are right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've heard from a number of people saying, why is the town blocking other companies from coming in? Why aren't you guys looking at these other companies? And I think it's important to say we reached out. They didn't they didn't respond, or they told us they weren't interested. And so it's a,
I agree with that. I think people don't really understand. Like, I mean, I personally, during this whole thing, I was like, oh, why can't we just get Spectrum? Why can't they I'll just sign up with Spectrum? But I think the majority of people don't understand what it takes to
Yeah.
bring in somebody else.
right.
They're not tech savvy any more than I am.
Right.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, great. Well, let's move along to non-agenda items. Is there anything anyone wants to bring up?
I did want to bring up something that's not necessarily impacting us directly, but I read an interesting article about Hope and their endeavors with the exact same thing that we're doing, a broadband committee, and they've spoken with LCI. And I think they have maybe like a third coverage in their town, where we're probably more like 2/3. So in essence, they're probably one of our competitors as well, that they're out there doing the exact same thing, talking to the exact same people, applying for the very same grants. So just to throw that out there, that, it's not just us fighting the battle. There are a lot of other people out there doing the exact same thing.
That I almost brought that up earlier. I've wondered if we should consider joining up with Hope, if we're going in the same direction. In other words, if we were doing a municipal system, is there some economy of scales of doing it with another town? Or if we're just trying to patch in the 25% that we're missing,
Well,
would
let
we
me
make
just
it happen faster?
let me just
So that's a
tell
question
you
not for tonight, but at some point we might want to explore that more.
that will probably be very complicated, because I know that even when it comes to the Hope Appleton Lincolnville school system, even it's very complicated with intertown expenses. And Appleton is a much different situation than Lincolnville, because they geographically are huge and have a much smaller amount of people. And the building, the outbuilding, overbuilding you'd have to do there, it would be on Lincolnville's back, which I'm not going to get into, again, budgetary and the school and whatever, but I think if we're going to do it, we have to do it ourselves with grant money, and approaching other towns is, I don't know. I just think that would get super complicated, and I don't know if it's even legally allowed. I'm sure Josh.
Aren't there some precedents for, towns getting together to do this? I thought that
Yeah,
was mentioned
Islesboro
earlier.
had mentioned that. But yeah, it's something we should certainly think about. But I certainly hear you, Jordan, and I think Islesboro had made the point that keeping it just to their town made it simple, made things very straightforward. But that's not to say it couldn't be advantageous in the future.
Josh, somebody we hadn't heard from who's a provider is, I want to say it's Verizon, who provides the internet for the libraries and the school systems in Maine.
Okay.
And I'm not 100% sure if that was Verizon or not, but to me, that's somebody who we could be talking to, who already has an infrastructure footprint in our area, if they're already providing internet service to our school and to our town.
That's actually the best service you can get is Verizon. So if we could, that's probably worth a call.
Great.
I agree, Jonathan.
Well, outside of Islesboro.
Right,
Yeah, outside of having your own municipal system, right?
Yeah,
But
I just made that
Verizon,
note, so we'll I'll have David Kinney invite them and see if they're interested in coming to talk to us.
yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, let's see. When do we want to have our next meeting? In 2 weeks? Does that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay. I am realizing in 2 weeks I will not be here. But that doesn't mean we can't have a meeting.
Just that Thursday or more, or some other day that week.
When are you gone?
I'm going to be gone the 24th to the 28th.
Okay.
Do you want to do it the 23rd?
That works for me.
Yeah, that'd be nice the night after.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know how we
fine.
could go without your leadership.
27, that's fine.
I can do the 23rd.
I can
23rd 's
also.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Great.
Me too.
Okay.
Make a note of that. Okay.
Same time?
Same time. Yep. 7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
Okay, great. Is there anything else?
Not for me.
Okay, great. Well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Seconded.
Okay, motion seconded. Gina, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay, Mike, how do you vote?
Yes.
George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jordan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, David, how do you vote?
Oh, yeah.
And Jonathan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Great. And I vote yes too. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you,
Great.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. We're gonna hit this button here or there. So how do I close it? I don't know. The meeting's over, I take it. There you go.